day rhyme. Okay? So in hymn number 3, it didn't have to rhyme with anything, so like maybe it's not as clear. But anytime you see that word, A-Y-E, it's going to be probably, every time I've encountered it in the hymn book, it's meaning like always or still. So you should pronounce it A. Okay? All right, let's go back to Jacob. We're going to talk about Jacob today. Especially from the point of view of family life. Yesterday we already talked about Jacob a little bit because obviously his father is Isaac, his mother is Rebecca. And I think yesterday we were talking and mentioned how he was closer to his mother Rebecca. And in general, the Bible says that he was a quiet person. Right? He was a quiet person, maybe more introverted. Esau was more like extroverted. Esau was the hunter, like very manly man. Jacob was more of a like to stay at home. Was good at cooking, things like that. So Esau won the favor of Isaac, and Jacob won the favor of Rebecca. So you can see that they were closer. Jacob was closer to his mom Rebecca and would listen to her pretty closely. Right? If we turn to Genesis chapter 27. If you read verse 5, it's Genesis 27, verse 5, Paul. Six. Seven. Eight. 9. 10. Okay. Here what we see is Rebecca instructing Jacob how to be like. Rebecca was a pretty crafty woman too, and pretty smart, but sometimes not the best in that sense because is a very sneaky type of character. So she overhears that Isaac is going to bless Esau because he thinks he is about to die, which, by the way, it didn't happen for another, how many years? Do you guys know? If I'm not mistaken, he won't die until another 60 years. Wait, let me think. Or 50 years, something like that. Okay, so he, we can calculate that another time, or you can do that on yourself by yourself. He thinks that he is about to die because his vision is getting poorer. He wants to bless Esau to pass on this blessing. That's what the father does to his firstborn. And Rebecca overhears this, and her first thought isn't like, oh, my son Esau is going to be blessed. Thank God. No, her first thought is, oh, I got to get this blessing for Jacob. Right? So you can see how badly the favoritism was in that family. Right? It's pretty bad. Okay. And so she then instructs Jacob to go about this very deceitful way to win the blessing. Okay. And Jacob was quite obedient and just followed whatever she said. Okay. And then later on too, Rebecca devised this reason to have Jacob leave the area because Esau was going to kill Jacob. This is something we'll talk about later. But Rebecca made up this excuse. Okay, whether it was very genuine or not, I think it's probably not that genuine. But Rebecca tells Isaac, chapter 27, verse 46, I'm weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob takes a wife of the daughters of Heth, like these who are the daughters of the land, what good will my life be? And Isaac then, hearing that, tells Jacob, okay, go to my relative's place and go and find a wife for yourself, right? Because Rebecca knew that Isaac had started to plot to want to kill Jacob when Isaac passes away. Okay, so definitely Jacob was very close to his mother, very obedient, and in general, I think one lesson we can learn from this relationship is Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1 through 3, right? This is not the best example, so we're learning from Jacob's mistake here, right? Obey parents, but what? In the Lord. Let's read Ephesians chapter 6. Did you have to memorize this or no? Huh? Did you have to memorize it? No? Okay, the SSC students have to memorize it. Let's ask Shannon, please read. Keep going to verse 3. Okay, all right. So, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. So, the key phrase I want to emphasize is in the Lord. Anybody ever face a situation where what your parents were telling you to do was not quite right? Not right? You want to share, Mammon? What'd you do? If you don't want to share the details, what'd you do? What happened? Okay, no problem. Anybody able to share something? You don't have to share all the details and throw your parents under the bus, but maybe tell us in general what happened. What was your response? How did it go? Okay, Mehmet. She what? A cheap move? A cheap. Oh, okay. You knew it was wrong, okay. And then what happened? You did it? Okay. You did it, all right. Anybody else? Or your parents in general pretty upright? Okay, it's good. Not too many hands is a good thing because definitely it's good to know that the parents are upright. All right, but if for some reason in the future your parents are telling you something and it's not in the Lord, right? It's not according to the biblical principles, then best thing to do, because now you're older, right? You are becoming independent people. I think at this time it's okay, right? You can very gently and politely share about what's in your conscience, right? And then about what the biblical principle is. Okay, like, sorry, but what I've learned from the Bible is that we can't do that. We can't do that, and I would feel very guilty if I did that. Something like that. Right, just to be able to, sometimes we wind up becoming good reminders to our parents in that way sometimes too. I also can't really think of a incident with me and my parents. In general, I think my parents are quite upright. Okay, so hopefully it doesn't happen, but if it does, key words: in the Lord. Obey them in the Lord. Jacob obeyed Rebekah in a very, just in the sense it's like too obedient, right? You can be too obedient in that sense, where you're obedient to the point of doing wrong, right? Doing sneaky things. Because it was already prophesied to Rebekah before her sons were born, that the younger is going, or the older is going to serve the younger. So she should already just trust in God for that prophecy to come, to be fulfilled. But she here took things into her own hands and also influenced Jacob to take things into his own hands. Okay? And that wasn't correct. Okay. So this is a little bit about Jacob and his relationship with his mother. Any other thoughts concerning Jacob and his mother, Rebekah? Okay, so for me, I think the key application with this relationship is Ephesians 6, verses 1 through 3. Let's now talk about Jacob and his brother, Esau. There's actually quite a lot of things we can learn here. Their relationship, in a way, was foreseen by God even before they were born. Okay. So let's go to that prophecy that we just mentioned. Let's go to Genesis chapter 25. Genesis chapter 25, verse 23. Genesis chapter 25, verse 23. Sabrina? Okay, so God already told Rebekah, 2 nations are in your womb. Like, eventually these 2 sons are going to be divided. Right? They're going to wind up becoming 2 nations. They're not just going to be like one together. It says 2 people shall be separated from your body. Okay? That's not talking about birth. Okay, separated and cutting the umbilical cord. No, separated meaning they're going to be divided. And then 1 people should be stronger than the other. That's referring to the Israelites, the people of Jacob. And then the older shall serve the younger, right? Esau and his nation will serve Jacob and his nation. So from the get-go, there was this tension between Jacob and Esau. If you look at verse 22. Verse 22, right? Benny. Yeah, so right from the womb, the children were already struggling together within her. She could feel there was fighting going on in the womb. Actually, you ever hear of some kind of medical cases where they're twins, but then one consumes the other? Yeah, all right? Well, here, they were twins, but they were already, I guess, not at that stage. So, like, already their own people. And then they're wrestling, struggling. Okay. And if we go to verse 26, Stephen Chu. So even when Jacob was born, this is very interesting because I've witnessed a live birth, right? My own daughter. But when I don't know, like it seemed like, I'm not sure exactly what the Bible is describing here, but first Esau was born, he was the older, so they called his name Esau. And then afterward, his brother came out. And his hand took hold of Esau's heel. I don't know, maybe Esau was born and Jacob was already grasping onto his foot. I don't know. Or maybe later they put him in the bed in like a little crib. And then he grabbed his heel. I don't know. My initial impression was that it's Jacob grasped his heel from birth, and came out like grasping, like they're fighting, and it's like, no, I want to be first. And then Esau was taken out first, but then Jacob grasped his heel. Okay. So their relationship from the beginning was one of tension and struggle. All right, and their personalities were different too. Their abilities and skills were different, and one parent favored one over the other, etc. Okay. And later on, when they were older, I think we all know this incident. This is when Jacob used Esau's desperate situation to buy his birthright. Right? Of course, Esau had a lot of faults here too. Right? Esau, most of all, takes the blunt of the blame. But Esau was very ruthless, you can say, too, because here's somebody who is very famished. How famished, it's really it's kind of uncertain. I mean, it's really tough to say, right, if Esau really was that desperate. Okay, but because the Bible does say that he despised his birthright and that Esau basically sold his birthright just for a momentary moment of pleasure. All right, this is found in, like Hebrews 12:16 says, lest there be any fornicator or profane person like Esau, who for one morsel of food sold his birthright. Okay. But anyway, he felt very tired, very weary. Esau said to Jacob, "Please feed me with that same red stew, for I am weary." And then Jacob said, sell me your birthright. Esau, I don't know, maybe he was just being over dramatic. Look, I'm about to die. What is this birthright to me? And he just despised it and just gave it away like that. So Esau definitely bears the brunt of the blame here. And the Bible does call him a profane person who just was so short-sighted, right? Short-sighted, and just so easily gave up such an important right, the birthright. The birthright, when you're the firstborn, you have the birthright, you basically get double inheritance. Okay, you get double the inheritance, and then the lineage, the heritage goes through you. But he just gave that up for one meal, for one morsel of food. So on the other hand, Jacob was very ruthless and opportune, right? Cutthroat. Yeah, that's the word. I think cutthroat. Once there's a little crack of how he can get an advantage over his brother, he took it without any concern over him. So they fought and were never, I think, really on good terms. And then what made it even worse was Jacob later stole Esau's blessing through those deceptive measures. Right? So Jacob, in this sense, really fulfilled the meaning of his name. Okay, he will, right, grasping, he will supplant. He who trips up, he who takes hold by the land, by the hand, right? So how many of you guys would describe your relationship with your siblings as Jacob and Esau? Okay, thank God, it's not that bad, right? Not that bad. Sometimes it can get that bad. But overall, usually you can eventually find common interests and ways to help each other. Okay, in general, siblings, I think every parent's hope, and in fact in the Bible too, it's what are siblings for? In general, it's actually to help one another. Okay, to help one another. Let's turn to Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 17, verse 17. Verse 17. Proverbs 17, verse 17. Stephen Liu. Not for adversary, for what? Adversity. Okay, for adversity. So, from the Bible's point of view, siblings, a brother, is born for adversity. Like when you're in trouble and sometimes your parents can't help you out, right? Sometimes your friends are not going to be available. A brother is somebody who can be there for you in your time of need. Okay? But Jacob and Esau, they were not like that. Jacob and Esau, they just kept on fighting. When Esau was in time of need, when he was hungry, Jacob just took advantage of it. Right? So how many of you guys would characterize your relationship with your siblings as, in general, you do try to help one another? Yeah? Okay, that's good. All right, hopefully you can keep it up. I think in general, parents would love to see that, like when they see their kids and you and your brothers and sisters working together, especially when you later become adults. Right? I remember one time, I just have this faintest of memories where I was young, I was like younger, like I was 10 or 12, and we were talking with our parents, my brothers and I, we were talking with our parents. And I remember they said something like that like they hope that in the future, like we could help one another, right? Whatever it is. And thank God, I really feel my brothers have been very helpful to me. Okay, they're very, very generous, I have to say, especially ever since we became adults and like weren't in the same house, and like I was a lot of times was fighting with my older brother. Me and Nathaniel, my younger brother, we got along pretty well. We didn't really fight that much, but then like sometimes with our older brother, we would have some tension. But anyway, that's long in the past, and especially I would say in the last 5 years, right, 5 to 10 years, our relationship has changed and evolved to a point where, we're really looking out for each other and helping each other. And I also feel like they've been helping me out a lot more than I feel like I've been helping them out. Okay? Because recently, ever since I became a theological student, right, definitely my income has gone down. But my brothers in general, always, they find ways to help me, help my family. So, especially my younger brother recently, he got a job about a year and a half ago. He's like making money now, pretty good money. And so, like before my daughter was born, I was telling him, like, hey, it would be good to, I don't know if it was like I was hinting or like a strong suggestion with a smile. Like I was hinting like, hey, it'd be good to get this new DSLR camera, right? Which is like over $1,000. And like, but the one that I currently have is from 2004. It's like 12 years old. Never upgraded, especially, in the last 5-6 years, because I didn't have budget for it. So I was like, it'd be good to have upgrade a newer camera. And then so he just bought it, right? He just bought it, and then he's like, okay, I'll let you borrow it. But technically, it's basically just mine, because he basically gifted it, right? And now he's using my old one, the 12-year-old one. He's trying to learn photography through the SLR camera. Recently, we took a trip to Europe. My parents basically paid for, like, me. My brothers, they're all making good money. They also were, doing their part to pay for some expenses. And many times, I would hear my brothers offer to pay for this, pay for that. I also would offer too, right? And I did pay for many things, because I don't want to just be the one receiving all the favors too. That kind of feels weird. So I also pay for things, but in general, like, I really feel that my brothers, they're very considerate of my financial situation, and they help out, right? They help out, and that's not something they have to do. They can just. My older brother, he has his own family. My younger brother, he can be saving for his future family too. He could be just saving whatever he wants. It's his own money. But they have been thankfully very, very helpful. In fact, we just bought a new house too with the help of my parents. So it's not just my income. And my younger brother, he also is offering, hey, I'll buy all the new furniture for your house. Right? And furniture could be quite expensive. So we'll see if we really take him up on that offer. We'll see how how generous he really is. No, I don't know. I think we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. But also, like, after my daughter was born too, he was even saying things like, hey, and if are you going to be able to save up for her college? Her college, in the United States, college is really expensive, and it just keeps on climbing. Huh? We send her to Canada, right? Or to Europe or something, right? But yeah, so there's a kind of a tax-free investment vehicle called a 529 plan. Does your parents open one up for you guys? A 529? Does that sound familiar? No? Okay, well, anyway, there's a 529 plan that your parents can open up for you, it doesn't have to be your parents. Someone can open up a 529 plan that basically can invest money that will grow tax-free. Like, you don't have to pay income tax on it, on the dividends. And you can use that money only for educational purposes when it matures. Okay, so he was even saying things like, "Hey, should I help? Should I help you guys out for saving up for his niece's college? Things like that." I'm really blown away, right, by this type of generosity. And in general, since I was younger, since I was 18, I've really tried to be an independent person in terms of financial things. Thank God I received full scholarship for college and then full scholarship for graduate school. So I never really relied on my parents for my education in the bulk of the payments. But ever since I was 18, I always had that concept, now I'm 18, I should try not to count so much on my parents' finances. And I hope that you can also have that type of mentality, just really, I know your parents probably going to wind up paying for your college, but think of it more as a bonus, okay? Don't think of it as an entitlement, oh, I deserve this, right? Think of it as, oh, wow, my parents really are very gracious people. And in general, Asian parents, very generous in that sense. Okay? But for us, I think you should develop a concept where you're trying to become independent, right? Not relying on too many people. And so that's the type of mentality I had. And so, up to, even for my wedding, our wedding, we basically paid for that ourselves. We didn't really I don't think we relied on parents at all. Everything we just try to pay for ourselves. And it's only kind of now where money's pretty tight. So now we have to rely more on some outside income, from family. But just the fact that my brothers are so generous, it's been a great blessing. Really just a great blessing in my life and my family's life. So I hope that in the future, as you grow older, into adulthood, you make your own money, make your own jobs, you eventually have your own families, stay in touch with your siblings, okay? All right? And make sure that you maintain a good relationship and help each other if the other needs help. Because often, if your sibling or yourself gets into trouble, a lot of friends wind up disappearing. Okay? A lot of friends wind up disappearing. And maybe the only help that they have is through family. It could be you. Okay. I was also reading an article a couple months ago. It was talking about siblings and this unique relationship that we have with them in life. Right? It's talking about how no one else in your life really kind of knows your whole life story as you, than your siblings, because you're so close in age. Your parents one day will pass away, right? So yes, and then they probably only know you the best, during the early years, until you're 12, and then when you're 12, you start looking for their friends and hanging out with your friends. Your siblings are people who kind of go through your entire life arc with you. And so you should cherish that relationship. Okay, try to do nice things for each other. For me, I always, as an older brother, I always paid for my younger brother's things if I could. Right? I always did that. I just said, "Oh, don't worry about it." Right? Don't worry about it. And then now he's helping me out, saying, "Oh, don't worry about it. Don't Don't worry about it. Okay. But your siblings are very unique, right? I'm trying to find that article because I think I clipped it and saved it. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, in general, I think you understand. Right? Siblings are play a very unique part of our lives. But Jacob and Esau, they were just always in tension, almost always in tension. Okay. So I think we know the story. Jacob later, after stealing Esau's birthright, fled to Haran. Over there, he spent 20 years. 20 years laboring for his uncle, which we'll talk about in the next class. And finally, after 20 years, he comes back. He comes back, and this is when things turn around a little bit. Okay, so I think their relationship is a lot better. So this teaches us that there's always hope too. Like right now, maybe your relationship with your brother is not ideal. A lot of times, maybe it has to do with a lot of immaturity in both you and your siblings. Okay, it's just like regular childish fighting or childish rivalry or childish things. But you can see that when Esau comes back, of course, he's very afraid. Let's go to Genesis chapter 33. Let's go to 32 first, right? 32. Genesis chapter 32, verse 6. Verse 6, let's go with Angela. Okay, so Jacob first sends a message on his way back to the land to his brother, saying that this is what I've been doing for all this time. I now have a lot of livestock. I am now sending a message to you. I hope I can find favor in your sight. Then Esau sends a message to Jacob saying, Esau's coming out to meet you, and there are 400 men with him. I don't know if this was a joke from Esau's side or not, but anyway, when Jacob heard that, it's like, oh man, Esau's coming with 400 men. That's kind of a scary thought, especially based on their previous relationship and Jacob's fleeing thought that Esau's going to kill me. Right? Back then, they didn't have cell phones, they didn't have Snapchat, they didn't have Facebook Messenger, they didn't have this to communicate. So his last memory of being with his brother was that Esau's going to kill me. And so when he hears there's 400 men, that dwells on him for the whole night. He's so worried. He doesn't know what's going to happen. He even has his family go across the river first. He stays behind, praying, right? And wrestling with God. Okay. And then finally, the next day, he meets his brothers. He sends, of course, a lot of gifts, does his best to try to win his brother's favor. And let's read Genesis chapter 33, verse 4. Genesis chapter 33, verse 4. Edward. Verse 5 and 5 through 7 too. Edward. Okay, verse 8 and 9. Let's go to Jahao. Okay, so here Jacob and Esau meet each other for the first time in about 20 years, and it's, thank God, it's a very pleasant and wonderful meeting. Like all that bitterness and hard feelings seems to have just melted away. They embrace, they kiss. Jacob insists on giving the gifts, right, to him. So it's a very it was a very wonderful meeting. Okay, so this reminds me of that verse in Psalm 133, verse 1, which tells us how beautiful and pleasant it is, right? How good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. Right? So, if as best as possible, we should have good relationships, especially with our siblings, because it's very wonderful when brothers and siblings get along, they help each other, and they all consider each other friends, right? Good friends and reliances. Okay, we'll continue in the next class. Let's bow our heads and pray in silence. Amen. Thanks. Exercise?
What happened? The exercise is long? Oh, okay. Who led exercise? Huh? Ah, okay.